So the way we deal with that issue, we need to help the human mind, help the civic leadership, help the business leadership, get a grasp of what needs to be done, but to also have some winners very quickly in the business of revitalization, is to break your downtown into components. You have six very distinct parts of your downtown just by current market forces. This is resulting in basically the dissection, if you will, of your downtown into six distinct zones or districts. The first is one we're calling the pedestrian-oriented zone, and this is the area from Smith from Broadway to just west of Market. Okay? Smith from Broadway just west of Market, and from Market and on Market from Smith to the park, Morrow's Meadow. That is the most pedestrian-oriented area that you have today. It's one that we think you ought to attack first. It's a pedestrian, and this again, to refer back to your vision, you want a downtown to be a pedestrian-oriented small-town downtown that's historic and quaint, comprised of unique businesses, and has vistas of and is connected to nearby parks. And this is the part of downtown, again, the core of your downtown, the historic core of your downtown, that's going to give us the opportunity to take advantage of that current situation. I mean, it's your most pedestrian-oriented area that you have. In this zone, we need to work towards beautifying downtown even more. The streetscape, I said, is taken care of. Now we need to attack the buildings. We need to make downtown more of a destination, and this is where we can really make a show. We need to create a concentration of specialty retail shops, food establishments, and entertainment venues in this area, and this can help us create a new image for your downtown. The second district we call the Gateway District, and this is where likely the majority of the people that would be coming to this downtown, particularly not from here, would enter your downtown. And this would include both sides of Smith, from Broadway to the Tiger Adeline intersection, and then extending north from Smith to Morrow's Meadow Park. That's the area that you come through. Virtually any direction you're going to be coming from, or the majority at least, that's the area that you're going to come through, and you'll exit through that as well. And we think this should be turned into a very beautiful gateway for this downtown, a memorial, a memorable, eye-catching gateway where you can create an atmosphere that entices people and welcomes people to come into your downtown, whether they're walking or whether they're driving. And again, this should include both sides of Smith, from Broadway, Tiger, Adeline intersection, and then extending north from Smith to Morrow's Meadow Park. That will go right in front of the school, actually, is where we go. There are two future development areas here. One's that it's not quite as easy to put a handle on what they should be at this point in time, because we need to do a little bit more to condition them, I guess, to take advantage of what their opportunities might be. And the first one we're calling a Future Development Area 1. And this is the area that's basically along Canal. And it's Canal from Market Street west to Broadway. We think here that as the market is further strengthened, this is going to be a very, very attractive destination with probably a lot of redevelopment pressure as well to encourage things that would be, could be food, could be specialty retail, but things that could take advantage of views of that park, which is a gorgeous, gorgeous asset that we've got. Future Development Area 2 would be everything to the west of Canal. And as we see it right now, that is a residential area, and it should stay that way. And so what we're going to suggest to you from the standpoint of guidance, and from a planning perspective, that it'd be an excellent area to work on the rehabilitation of units that are in there, and then some construction likely of new units as time passes. But again, we're going to need to strengthen the other parts of the market first. The largest area that we have from a commercial perspective, we call it the highway commercial mixed-use area. And this is the area that includes both sides of Smith, from the area it'd actually be there at the service station, just west of Market to your western boundary. It's currently comprised of a mixture of things, residential and commercial, that are set back from the sidewalk. And this is like highway-oriented development, commercial development. It likely will always be that way. It likely won't be coming up to the street anytime soon. But as downtown's further enhanced, this area is going to continue to be appropriate for auto-oriented buildings that contain a mixture of offices, service businesses, as well as housing. A mixture of uses will always be appropriate there. And again, that can be experienced or realized through both rehabbing structures as well as new construction. And likely some of the things you see in there today, as the market improves, are going to be such that you can take them down and put new things in their place to be more profitable for whoever whoever owns the property. The final area in terms of a zone, if you will, we're calling a residential rehabilitation area. And it's the area just out behind me here, if my direction is right, High Street. This would be from Marsh roughly to the west side of Adeline. And we think this is a great area to continue to strengthen the housing market. It's going to be a great area over time too for starter homes, for young families. And I can tell you what happens in the business of revitalization. You're going to see it here, there's no question. In fact, we already see it out there as I speak, is revitalization is kind of like a rock in the pond. And what you want to do is again, not shotgun it, you want to rifle it. That's what we're suggesting to you here, starting with that pedestrian zone first. But what you want to do is create a ripple effect from an economic perspective of value. And as that occurs, around the edges of a good solid downtown in this state or anywhere in the country, you're going to find really, really attractive housing over time. So the housing that's behind me today, it is attractive in and of itself. It's going to be even stronger from the standpoint of market appeal as this downtown gets better. And you're no different than anyone else in this state or in the country. Is you want a downtown that's walkable, it's friendly to you, but that you can access if you choose to do it with or without your car, bicycle included. Okay, that's kind of the framework. We call that the development framework. And that's the framework within which we work to do all the other things that are going to make downtown better. One of the first things that we think you need to do is to do a better job addressing aesthetics in this downtown. And the community is really into this. They want to see that area enhanced and improved from the standpoint of the appearance of buildings as well as the appearance of space in that area. Again, you don't want it to look like a mall. You don't want a cookie cutter downtown. You want it to be unique, and that means not necessarily uniform. And that's one of the things too that makes a downtown really attractive, is to have kind of an eclectic mix of buildings as well as uses that give the downtown more character and uniqueness and special appeal. One of the things that we think you should do, and from this point forward, I'm going to be listing a series of actions that you will do within the framework of these zones that I've suggested to you. A lot of this is going to be concentrated initially, at least within that pedestrian zone. Planters. We know the town plans to do that, to put planters out there to fill them with lush and attractive plantings. We suggest that you do this year-round. A lot of communities are remiss in that they only think that they should put out attractive vegetation during the summer months, but you know, cabbages are pretty attractive too. And we've learned a lot about cabbages in winter foliage working in Alaska, but it really adds something in the winter months as well. I know it's cold, but it's like eye candy as one goes through that downtown to see, just like those lights in the trees. That's a good example. It really gets your attention, and you remember, even if you're not from here, you'll remember seeing that. In the gateway area that I described to you earlier, that would bring us up from Smith, from Adeline, Tiger, we think it would be a good job there to do more beautification. And one of the things that, in fact, this came out of a study that was done here. I'm not sure if it was done by a local group or an outside, but some discussion was given in the past about enhancing that area around the gazebo board to make it more of a focal point. And it looks pretty cool tonight in terms of the Christmas decorations and so forth on it, but we think you should do the best you can as a part of that gateway project to make that gazebo in the area around you as attractive as you possibly can. Now this is one, you don't see this a lot in Indiana. You see it more in Michigan than you do in Indiana, and I think NDOT will be cooperative as long as it was reasonable. We'd like to suggest that you introduce planter boxes or hanging flower baskets along the bridge that's located on Smith in the gateway area. And again, keep these planted and attractive year-round. You might even look at how those lights have really enhanced the look of downtown. Hopefully you'll leave them on for quite a period of time here because they're very nice looking. But you might even think of lighting that bridge as well, if NDOT would work with you on that. And then intense landscaping in all four corners of Tiger, Adeline, Smith intersection. You're lucky in that you have two banks there, okay? And I'm not going to try to put the banks on the spot or suggest they do something that they wouldn't want to do, but banks are normally extremely cooperative in projects like this because they're very image conscious and they just happen to be your gateway. The Chase Bank is downtown. You see what a great job they've done with the landscaping that they've done around that facility. So that would be a nice addition to the public aesthetic, if you will, to have a more attractive gateway. And again, I think we're lucky in having banks there. We're going to suggest too that you have two very high quality and highly visible pieces of public art to be placed in the downtown at this time. One, we think you should place somewhere around that gateway intersection, again, the Smith, Tiger, and Adeline intersection. And then we think you should place another at Market and Canal to create a grand terminated vista, is what that would be called, and a view into the Morrow's Meadow. Public art is something that if you travel around much in this state or anywhere else, you're going to see that that's really captivating the attention of the public. It also happens to be something that philanthropic people enjoy putting their money behind because it's something visible and that they can see they're getting something for their money. So please give some serious consideration that public art is something you're sort of lacking down there, and a couple of pieces probably are going to lead to 6 pieces over time. You gave us a lot of input relative to the way buildings look in that downtown. It's obvious some people have done a good job with them. It's extremely obvious that some people haven't. And what we're going to suggest to you is that there appears to be a great desire in this community to see the facades of downtown buildings, that's the outside of the buildings, brought back to their former glory. And again, that's the only, in that pedestrian zone particularly, that's the only historic commercial property you have in the city, period. That's your history. That's where it started, okay? And most people in the know in this community realize that's a reflection of not only who you are, but where you came from. Again, to use your words, where we've been before. And we think it's very important and totally agree with you that something needs to be done with that. And the building owners there in that area, particularly the pedestrian zone, should be encouraged to do the very best job they can of improving their buildings. And one of the things that we found throughout the country, and in this state as well, is that you got to offer a little carrot initially to get people to get off the dime if they haven't already done it. And usually that's in the form of some type of a facade grant. I can tell you what that basically is the public investing in itself. If you fix up a building, the taxes are going to go up. If you fix up a building, you're going to generate more revenue, which will create more sales, more taxes as well. So governments normally look for some type of return on investments, and we're going to suggest that we go at this facade enhancement initiative in a very pragmatic, not an aggressive, but a very one step at a time type of an approach to make sure it works. We're going to suggest that we offer up to $15,000 per building to be matched 50-50 for those that would be reasonable enough to work with the community on enhancing and actually feathering your own nest and improving your own asset or your own investment. And that would be matched by $15,000, up to $15,000 from the private sector. Now, if you wanted to do $5,000 worth of work, that'd be fine. Then you'd have a $2,500 grant, and you'd pay $2,500 on your own. And we also think that this program, the facade program, should include design assistance. It ought to be the design assistance should be provided by an architect that has experience with historic structures and with downtown commercial buildings. Talent you have right here in this community, certainly talent that you have right here in this area, particularly with Ball State in proximity to. These standards should be very clear. It shouldn't be anything fancy. It should be something very clear that would allow applicants to reasonably comply with this in order to receive the grant. And it can be offered, we think initially you should offer this just in that pedestrian zone, again, the most historic area of your downtown. Now, there's nothing to say you have to stop what you started, but my guess is once you get the program started, the peer pressure is going to kick in. So you probably won't have to induce or incentivize these projects for very long. And in fact, we're so confident that would work is that we would suggest that you start off with just 3 buildings, okay? Find 3 reasonable owners, and I think they're there right now in that downtown that would be willing to work with you to fix up their buildings, to make them look more attractive, again, to help us improve the aesthetic of downtown. And, you know, again, if you're happy with the way the 3 work and you have more people lined up to do it, then you can consider it later. But I'd suggest you not go crazy with it initially. Start off slow. 3 buildings, that's a lot of buildings in a town this size, and it doesn't require a lot of money and investment on the public part or the private part to make that work. We think rather than retaining a preservation architect, as most people would do in projects like this, to provide design guidelines for you. And design guidelines are, in essence, public standards that you would expect one to comply with if they were to rehabilitate a historic building, meaning you want to treat the building with as much respect as you can to its history, but old buildings are old buildings, so maybe some things need to be done to correct deficiencies that would be more modern than the history would be. Design guidelines can help you make those decisions. But rather than you go out and spend a ton of money on having those design guidelines prepared at this point, which suggests that you not try to necessarily reinvent the wheel with that. Go to other Indiana cities and towns that are operating design facade programs, and there are tons of them in this state. You could go to the State Historical Preservation Office, or you could go to what probably is still, I think in my mind, most anyone's mind, the most prestigious historic organization in this nation. It's called the Historic Landmarks Foundation of Indiana. They've always been extremely respected in the business, and I've found in this state they're more than happy to help communities. And I know they're very good friends of IAC, and in fact, I think maybe you used to serve on Matt, I think the director used to serve on one of their boards, if not Matt, the former director did. But we think that you really get a big bang for your buck. And I think the public, at least as we determined in our work here, the public strongly supports the enhancement of those existing buildings. We think that, and we heard some, not an awful lot, not as much as we hear in some communities about parking, the need for parking. And we think that perhaps now is not the time to go to do a lot of parking development, but in the future we probably are going to need to ensure that adequate parking is in downtown. And we strongly suggest that you have landscape standards for parking lots when they're built here, but that the parking lots, particularly in that pedestrian zone that are facing Smith, any parking lots that are there need to be buffered. And I'll use the bank as an example. It's the one that we keep referring back to in our own minds because they've done a really good job there on Smith. And any other parking that's on Smith should be treated appropriately in a fashion very similar to that. Business windows too in that pedestrian zone, particularly the first floor windows, shouldn't be obstructed. You shouldn't cover those up. That causes public safety people all kinds of nightmares. And we think that it would be appropriate not to block those windows with multiple signs, not to black out the windows, and you have some blacked out windows down there now, and to keep the display lights on at night. You'd be surprised at just how much the ambience, if you will, in the evening is enhanced just by leaving window lights on. It puts a certain glow that street lights can't do to a downtown, but it makes it a walkable downtown again, a much more walkable. We think too that to the degree that you can, and this is like almost a daily job, but we need to keep the sidewalks free and clear of obstructions to make them safe for patrons. So we should prohibit the display of merchandise on the sidewalks in downtown, but within this pedestrian zone especially. But this, again, it's difficult to put hard rules on that one. So I think in the future the word should be that when you have celebrations like sidewalk sales or Christmas events, then the sidewalk is an appropriate place to display merchandise or to have other features. But on a daily basis, your downtown's too small to have a lot of activity like that on the street. So we suggest that you avoid putting any other displays or merchandise on the sidewalks for sale. You want a downtown to be a fun downtown, and we totally agree with that. One of the biggest, I think, assets or reasons for downtown's being is to be a fun place for family and friends and the whole community to enjoy. So under the heading of fun, one of the things that you wanted was some type of a concession for kids or venue for kids. And we think you ought to give consideration to adding a splash pad. You know what a splash pad is? Like a water feature that kids can run in and out of. And it's not a swimming pool, but it's basically squirting water up that kids run through. It's a great way of attracting families to a commercial district like this to offer, again, a very child-friendly type of activity. And we think that if you go along with this venture, the splash pad ought to be located either in or very near Morrow's Meadow. It should be placed as close as possible to the intersection too of Canal and Market. You're going to see why in just a second. And to be visible from Smith when you're looking from Smith to Canal. But in a central location, again, it would be just one more reason why family and friends would want to come to downtown, particularly if you have children. We think too it'd be a good idea under the heading of fun to do something that was very prevalent 50 years ago in downtown. It's coming back in a small fashion, but outdoor movies to be held in downtown, either in conjunction with your library or through another venue here. But movies should be shown on the side of a downtown building, preferably a building that's located in that pedestrian zone. And movies should be shown which are family friendly. It could be something that's not even an old movie, but the reason to have it is not necessarily the movie. It's to bring families and kids, if you will, back into downtown. Pop some popcorn, have a movie, put some blankets on the ground, and have a good time. Again, this is an old concept, but it's beginning to surface again and could help you downtown. So, farmers market, you're lucky to have a good one today, and it's located in the Meadow. To make this market as fun and family friendly as it possibly could be, and encourage market goers to shop in downtown's businesses, we think that the following should occur. We think that you should add to that venue entertainment and family fun that's added, such as live music, magicians, animal balloon makers. A lot of people offer prepared food in that type of environment. And if at all possible, we think the farmers market should be moved to a very highly visible location within the center of your downtown, such as the parking lot owner off of Smith within this pedestrian zone. And we think food vendors, again, should be invited to participate in this market as well. You have 4 events today, under the heading of fun. You have 4 events that you hold in your downtown. You have the homecoming event, that's a kind of a September-October event. You have the Christmas parade, luminaries, so forth here in December. You have the July 4th in the park, and you have 4 for the 4th run here in July. And what this basically means is that there's a 7-month gap in your downtown events today, in your calendar. There's nothing between Christmas and July the 4th. And this gap should be narrowed as much as possible. You need as many reasons as you can get to come to downtown to have fun, not just to buy something. And we think you ought to create at least 1 or maybe 2 additional downtown events. And you should ensure these events, again, are fun, but yet unique, so that you're known for these over time. And we think you ought to hold these again in that pedestrian zone in the core, so the downtown's businesses are visible to event goers. Now, what you'll find if you have events is that a lot of merchants say that's the worst day they ever had. People, all they want to do is use my bathroom. They don't want to buy anything I've got. And, that's human nature. So a lot of times businesses will opt out of being open during special events. And again, that's reasonable. It depends on the kind of business that you've got. But what people do, if you'll do a good job in your windows, is they'll see you and they'll come back and visit you over time, even if you're closed on that particular day. So remember, during these events, even the ones you have today, if you don't choose to participate in them by being open, then at least have an attractive window and keep your lights on while the event's going on. And the two events, we're going to suggest that you maybe consider again two additional events. One might revolve around some type of a family holiday, such as Easter, like an Easter parade. And the other might be a just purely fun variety event, such as a Taste of Yorktown, like a food event or a Halloween costume contest. Again, it shouldn't be something that taxes you tremendously, but it should be, again, just another excuse to come down here to have fun. And again, most of these, if they're well planned and very high quality, are going to bring a lot of people to this community over time.